And I will say the vitriol that I harbor towards builders, I saved my buyers from harboring that vitriol because I dealt with all that stuff. I can't even imagine if those buyers were dealing with that builder and they didn't have representation, how badly they would.
Do you want a pat on the back?
I'll do it myself, yeah.
Hey guys, episode 67 of the Real Estate Huddle. Today, we are going to talk about some new construction and the steps of planning and purchasing a new home and what that looks like, and some behind the scenes type stuff, for new construction right here specific to the Denver area. So we'll talk a little bit about the different options that are out there, but mostly it's like how to find it, how to plan for it, and then what to expect through a new build process. So I'll open it up to you guys. The first step is really just the planning, right? That goes behind it. And if people end up buying a new home in Denver, where does that process start typically? How do they start
buying a new build?
Yeah.
There's a couple starting areas. More traditionally, if you're buying it as what they call, there's a couple different terms for it, but like a dirt start. Mm-hmm. You're literally buying it from the ground first, and then you kind of choose your plots, right? So before...
What is a plot?
Yeah. So before a division is built, a subdivision is built, or whatever, a community is built, they have a ton of planning that goes into it. Then they have soil testing, and they have they're grading it for whatever type of terrain they want it to look like, and then they start plotting it out. And those plots are what your house is going to sit on, right? That part of land that your house sits on, and that's what goes up for sale first, right? You buy the plot with the plan of the house, and most of the time, if it's not a custom home, it's you choose the style of home or whatever model they have, and if they allow that, there's a couple caveats that go into buying a new build as far as we want this model, and sometimes they won't allow you that model because that's the one right next door, or the one right across the street.
Yeah. Well,
things like that. So,
and behind the scenes on the development side, you've got developers and basically that are just trying to find land anywhere they can, right? And sometimes they get it from, for example, in Highlands Ranch, we have one that was a 20-year school zone that just expired, that the builder bought it. There's others that they have to change the zoning on it to make it a buildable plot of land. So they buy these big plots of land, and then they parcel them out into lots, and surveyors come and help do that, and then connect all the utilities and get that all going before they can even start selling lots and selling dirt, right, at that point. And so that's what's going on in the background. I'm talking about the minds of the consumer. How are they planning for this? Mm-hmm. If I was trying to buy a new build, where would I start?
I'd say you can start the wrong way or the right way. Mm-hmm. So if you don't know what you're doing, you can show up, you say, hey, I want to see this plot, or I want to see this new build community. Mm-hmm. And the person who's going to meet you there is the builder's sales rep. Mm-hmm. And the key word there is builder's sales rep. So they represent the person that's selling it. They don't represent you as a buyer. So what I would recommend to start the right way, I'd say the first step is finding a real estate agent to represent you as a buyer. Because if you meet with a builder sales rep, they're going to tell you, oh, you don't need that. We have a warranty. We'll do right by you. We're not slimy at all. We're not trying to rip you off. It's all just lip service. Yes, they are. And the only reason they don't want you to have representation is because it cuts into their commission. Yeah. So you don't have to pay that commission as a buyer. The seller's going to pay the commission. So getting an agent to represent you to help you buy the new build, I'd say, is the right way to start.
Yeah, no, I agree. And some builders are much better than others as far as how they handle things and how they treat buyers, I would say. And also, we have to clarify, it's not a foregone conclusion, right, that the seller's going to pay the buyer agent. Nowadays, after we learned last year, right, with this whole lawsuit that we've gone through, it's all about what the builder's advertising, right, as far as that goes, and if the agent is willing to accept what they're advertising, right, which a lot of cases we work with that, and we try to help provide a ton of value, right, as we go through the process with our home buyers. And we're all licensed realtors here, right? We've gone through a lot of new construction deals and help people through this process. And I can tell you every single time I've been through this process with a buyer, I've added a ton of value to the situation, where they would have been either lost or made a bad decision, possibly with upgrades, with location. I can tell you a lot of stories about that, but there's a lot of value. I think that your point of just starting with a realtor is a really good point. And I would say there's other, like, there are websites that you can look at as well to do like investigation, just understand the market better, that sort of thing. A realtor can be a great resource for all of that. But one of my favorites is newhomesource.com. Just pulls from all the different builds that are going on, so you can really research. Because I think some people, like Jackson said, they go to the model home first. They get wowed and enamored by all the updates, and they feel the pressure of the salesperson kind of like pushing them into a new build. And then it may not be the right location for them. It may not be the right community at all, right? And it may be the worst like lot in the community, but they're so sold on the emotional appeal of all those updates. And so they just go right into that rather than starting with research, understanding what's out there, getting a full scope, right, of what the market looks like, and is this a good time to buy? Is it, going to be an asset that appreciates for me? That sort of thing. So I think there's a lot of value in starting with research.
Yeah, the other key part to piggyback off of your point, Jackson, is to make sure you do an inspection on a new home. I know they're doing a full permit process and going through that and having all the inspections, but there are certain things that are going to be outside the permit process that you're going to want to have looked at. So
my builder said that we're just going to go through and we'll do a walkthrough and we'll just check it out then. That's basically an inspection, right?
Yeah, no. Having a licensed inspector come out and actually, crawl in the attic and go out on the roof and do different things. I can't tell you, several of the new homes that I've worked with. I had one where they forgot to cut out the sheetrock for the dryer vent. So you're going to go to have your dryer installed and there's no place to exhaust the dryer. It's different things like that. We've had things where they forgot to connect some of the pipes or little things like that. So you're just going to want to make sure that kind of stuff gets done, and you need to have kind of that independent witness to hold the buyer accountable. If you're doing a dirt start and you're going through the full process, be physically on site, ask those questions and go to the house. And certain people allow you out there on Sundays and go visit it and get pictures all the way through. One of the other things that one of my buyers did is he actually went and did a videotape before they put sheetrock up where all the plumbing and what everything was behind the walls. So he had pictures and a video of everything behind the walls. So like if he ever wanted to, mount a TV on the wall and rerun some cords or something like that, he knows what's there beforehand. So it was a great little piece of information that a lot of people find out after the fact that you put a nail through a plumbing pipe and now you got a water leak. So.
Raise your hand if you've caught a builder with an egregious error during the inspection that they were just trying to pass off to the buyers.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It happens.
Unfortunately, I think the inspection is super important because what happens next is when you start going through that under contract process, and they start building it, or whether it's built already. You'll have multiple inspections, right? Typically, you have a pre-drywall walkthrough where you see the framing and all that kind of stuff. Then you have that post, or I guess the kind of the pre-final walkthrough, which is where you literally go on and sticker everything.
To give the builder time to come back and fix all the paint touch-ups and whatever else.
So when you say sticker, what is that?
Yeah, so you take, whether it's like, I've had blue tape or they have like little sticker dots or whatever. You're going through and looking at all the things that you see that need to be fixed, whether it's like paint, drywall, cracks, or
the drawer in the kitchen doesn't close right or whatever.
Your flooring's chipped or whatever. Just the cosmetic stuff that you want fixed. And sometimes there's bigger issues. But going back to the inspection, the reason that's so valuable to have that done before all that is because what I do as the realtor, I pull that inspection report up and I'm walking through the house again with the builder, or the superintendent is typically who you're with, and walking through saying, hey, this is what we see on the inspection report. We want this addressed as well. Things that we may have missed, before all this was done, all that kind of stuff. So one instance we had a huge foundation crack on both sides of the house that were actually it wasn't necessarily a settling issue. It was more of a pressure issue from a big skid steer or some type of backhoe driving right next to the foundation while I was curing. So we had that fixed, and that wouldn't have been fixed had the inspector not have done his job, because they're not going to go looking for that on the final walkthrough in most cases. So super valuable to have that inspection done before you even go through that final walkthrough. Because you will catch things that most of the builders either will not tell you about or haven't caught themselves.
And
for sure.
there's an expression, I had au pairs that comes from Brazil, that's the ox works once, but the donkey works twice. And it's essentially saying if you do good work the first time, you're done. But if you mess it up the first time, then you have to do it again anyways.
true.
And a lot of these builders, they're just looking for the cheapest people that they can find to do the plumbing, the cheapest people that they can find to do the electrician's work. And a lot of those tradies, because they're not in communication with each other, they'll mess up each other's work. So I had a new build home where they put in all brand new carpet, and then tradies came in, ripped up the carpet, dragged heavy stuff over the carpet, like just literally destroyed the whole brand new carpet doing this other work. And so that's something where I don't think a lot of people realize that these tradespeople who are working on the house are not always coordinated well. And they're not always doing things in the right order of operations to where they're not going to interfere with each other. So
Well, I'm thinking back to it now. You had 2 really rough new construction experiences with Alex and his place, with Century, and then with your place. The square footage was not accurate with what they were advertising, and like just some crazy stuff that came up for you. So I can tell, like I can sense that, like
I'm not a fan of builders.
Where I've had a lot of great experiences with builders, so I hear, because I was a part of those, so I remember exactly what you were going through. So I totally get where you're coming from.
And that one with Lennar.
We've had a few of those. I mean, we have a client that's had over. He told us over 100 warranty meetings with Lennar after closing in a couple of years. And so it's just not fun, you know. And I think that these builders, they go through stints where they're maybe they're superintendents and their subcontractors were really not doing a great job, and then they cleaned house, and then they hire again, and then they're delivering a totally different experience the next time around. But there's some consistencies there too, I think, amongst builders.
It's part of the research, right? That's part of the research portion at the very beginning, is looking at the reviews of every builder in whatever community you're looking at, because not all builders are equal.
And the same builder is different in a different location. Because
Yep.
a builder that I would say is really good here in Colorado, I've seen many videos of like down in Arizona where their quality is horrible. Like they built a brick retaining wall that like when you pushed on it, it fell over. Like if that's how they build a retaining wall or like a fence wall, you can tell what else are they gonna shortcut. So
and
tile material cracked on the roof. You see that type of stuff, and it just goes exponentially worse.
Well, it goes back to their use. So builders, they're a glorified general contractor. They're contracting out all their work to these tradesmen, and so you're not going to get the same tradesmen in every single community, and so everyone's different. Obviously, what you want to look for is the standard of their work, right? The reviews that they get from people, and most nationwide builders will have a reputation, good or bad. But when you get to like a local level, you definitely want to do a little bit more research, a little more intensive research. Just like ask your realtors, ask the people in the community about what those houses look like and how they're reacting with the local builders, because you won't always get the same reviews. But that's a huge part of it, because it makes your inspections and then your walkthroughs a lot easier when you know what you're getting into. So.
And who writes the contract if it's not a new build house?
If it's not a new build house?
Yeah, if it's a regular resale. And who writes the contract if you're buying
the
new
buyer's
construction?
sale, or the sales rep. That's a big...
And even more so, the lawyers for the builders.
Yeah, it's all standardized contracts.
This is something that I would say you have to know before you're going to buy a new build, is I'd say 99% of builders' contracts. If you have a dispute, you have to go to binding arbitration. And I'm not a lawyer, this isn't legal advice, but this is what a lawyer has told me. that binding arbitration is always with former builders as the arbiters. So you have no recourse. You cannot sue them. You cannot go through the normal channels that you would if somebody did you wrong in a home buying transaction. You have to go to binding arbitration that is already biased against you from the very start. So that is something that if you're buying a new home, I think you have to know before you do that.
The deck is stacked in their favor. So, and some of those contracts, the last one I seen was over 100 pages. So you're going to want to know what that is because you're signing up for it.
I just read through one with Toll Brothers, and I think Toll Brothers is one of the best builders in Colorado. I think them and Taylor Morrison are my two favorites probably. But the Toll Brother and any builder, they give themselves about 2 years to finish the home. In some cases, 3 years to finish the home. So they don't make. I mean, they'll tell you like I think it's going to be a 14-month build time or a 10-month build time. But they give themselves a ton of time without any penalty in that contract. But if you as the buyer don't close within 10 days of your closing date, then you've got per diem charges of like pretty steep, like every day you're charged a certain amount until you close. So that's just one example of like how it's stacked in the builder's favor, and they protect themselves because they know if they get into a bind, they don't want to be like in financial ruin if like one of their materials runs out or something like that, you know.
And COVID really impacted that with the building plans. So,
And this is all more specific to at most semi-custom homes. This is more of a track home, semi-custom. If you're planning to do a fully custom home with a custom home builder, you need to prepare yourself. And this goes for this as well, but I guess for everybody, just prepare yourself for a few headaches when going through a brand new house.
and decision fatigue. People don't realize,
Especially in the custom, like full custom house building is. I know a few people who've built some pretty nice houses, and I ask all of them, would you ever do it again? And they all say absolutely not. Absolutely not.
it's a true test of a marriage.
Well, and even if you pick everything just like you like it on a custom build, you'll move in and 6 months later you'll say, I wish we would have done this different. You know?
Yeah, there's always some kind of remorse, right? It's like almost like buyer's remorse in some areas, but and it's the same with these spec homes or tract homes or whatever you want to call them, these subdivisions. You'll always have something that isn't exactly how you want it, but you're going into it because it's brand new. But yeah, like I said, expect, because I feel like this episode's been a little bit more on the negative side. So there are headaches with new builds. However, the end product is usually pretty great.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new home. No one's ever stepped foot in it. Like you're the only ones living in it.
Totally.
And there's great updates. It's all trending. It's really nice. You probably have really good neighborhoods. Your HOA is going to be great. And it's not as common to hear about it afterwards, unless you're Jackson, that your process, even the home you're in, is pretty bad. So most of them
I don't
turn out
blame
really
you,
well.
though. You've had some bad
you've
ones.
had some rough ones.
And that's the thing is, if you go behind the scenes in the real estate era here, doing the new builds is really good, and doing one that's from a dirt build all the way through. Sometimes new builders have some that are existing that you could just walk into and just do an inspection and buy.
Yeah.
So you get some variety there based on if their buyer backed out or whatever it may be. But knowing the one thing that I've seen is a lot of the new builds, people will have a lot of problem with the sheetrock cracking or as the house settles and different things. Well, that goes back to the framing before the sheetrock was put up or how they put the sheetrock up, and people don't understand like the impact of that is, there's a little gap between this stud and this and this piece here. So all that framing, if it's not tight, that gives it an area to settle. And now by the time they put sheetrock on it, now you're going to start getting cracks. So little things like that, where if you're doing a dirt build, you get that opportunity. So I had a family member who did a custom build down in Colorado Springs, and they, due to job circumstances, they were only in the home for less than a year, and they moved out. And turns out that a couple months after the new people moved in, one of the lower basement walls started collapsing in on the home because it had foundation issues. It's crazy. Because they did a survey, they did all the right things, but it just wasn't wasn't built properly, or it was above and beyond the normal what they would expect. And yeah, it was kind of hard for them to see their custom home like completely cave in, but
Yeah.
it happens.
That's tough.
So
Yeah.
that was like almost a $1.5 million house. So it's not and it's a custom build. Everything was really nice, but
It's crazy. Hope they have a warranty.
And I will say the vitriol that I harbor towards builders, I saved my buyers from harboring that vitriol because I dealt with all that stuff. I can't even imagine if those buyers were dealing with that builder and they didn't have representation, how badly they would.
Do you want a pat on the back?
I'll do it myself. Yeah.
Century was a prime example of that, because that whole subcontractor situation was a nightmare. Everyone on their staff was telling us that they were quitting and they were leaving, and then the next year we did another one in there, and it was fine. Like everything went smooth. It was great. So that's what we mean by just like there's ebbs and
there's a lot
flows.
of turnover.
Jackson's
Yeah,
right though. Like when you have an agent, we're there to it's just like any other transaction, right? We're there to represent you, to make sure we do the heavy lifting for you, so you don't have to do it on your own. If you're doing it on your own, that's like good for you, because you've probably never done this before, unless maybe you have, but
one thing you may not know is if you're doing it on your own, you're just contributing that percentage of what the builder would have paid us to their marketing budget, typically.
Yep.
And so
You're just
you're
paying
not
them more
saving
money.
any money.
Yeah.
They're not giving you a discount. You're just paying them more money to market their
or
products
you
more.
could
And
just be
that's-
paying for representation instead.
to help that heavy lifting.
And meanwhile, while you're picking out all your light fixtures and all your everything else, all the decisions that you have to go, and even on a semi-custom, you got to pick out the trim and the carpet and all that type of stuff. Yes, they limit your options because they have a pool to choose from, but you have to make all of those decisions and understand the 100-page contract and, hey, what happens when we failed this part of the inspection, and what does that mean? And what's that going to be long-term when my electrical outlets aren't supported properly? And
A lot of information when you're trying to keep up with your day job and your kids or family or whatever. So
The other thing, real quick, that I want to mention, just because I've seen it happen before, and it's more on the finance side, because if you're not buying this in cash, you're obviously going to have to finance it. And if this project's going to take 8 to 10 months, your rates are not going to be the same from when you started to when you end. And so you're going to be locking in at probably a different rate, most likely, hopefully lower, but potentially higher. So keep an eye on that and have constant communication with your lender if you're doing that, so that you understand where you're going to fall in as far as a mortgage, because you may qualify out of this house if rates go up in between and that is an issue that can become pretty messy pretty fast.
I had some clients that had a small down payment on their new build that, they did their in-house financing with Richmond. And by the time with the appreciation rates and everything were happening, by the time Richmond actually finished the home and everything else, they actually had, instead of 3%, they had like 15% equity in the home because the values had gone up so much, and they had locked in the contracting and the financing ahead of time. So it was a real big win for them.
And there is long-term locks that you can do on construction financing.
Yes.
Too. Like for a year or for 2 years if you choose to. A lot of people don't choose to do that, but if you feel like rates are ascending and they're going up, then I would definitely recommend doing that. Like 2022 was when we saw a lot of people doing that.
I know that wasn't necessarily part of the construction side of it, but
no, that's a good point. And I think like a lot of people don't understand, like with building permits, the reason why building permits are so necessary is, one, so that builders are keeping the rules and it's inspected by a third
accountability
party
factor.
county or city inspector, right? But then the other reason is because they don't allow the same home to be built over and over and over again. So you want variation in your community. So the building permits make it so that you can have, these features in this house, and then the next house looks a little different, has a little different appeal, and so the neighborhood looks better when there's building permits, and that's usually how it is in most of these communities for tract homes that we
When they do
represent.
different elevations of the same, it's the same, blueprint of the house, but they do different elevations to make it look different from the curb appeal.
Totally.
So the building permit, there is one update to the recent electrical permit that has been a real bothersome thing. They are no longer allowing outlets in islands in kitchens. So because exactly. This is the one is, so they started putting outlets in there because people were running extension cords from a wall through the floor onto the island to run whatever crock pots or whatever it may be. Well, they had problems where the cord was on the side of the island looped up to the top, and kids would trip and pull the appliance off of the island, so they decided to get rid of it. But now some of the builders are smart enough to build in an electrical junction box in the island, so it's really easy for you to adapt, because they understand that that's pointless, but they have to meet code. So understanding what the good parts of the permit, and what the good parts of the code,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
and those, having that knowledge really pays a big difference. So I happen to have a friend who writes some of the electrical code, and he kind of made me aware of it, and I've seen some different videos on it, and it was pretty interesting. But that I think the electrical outlets being plugged into the island is a lot easier than an extension cord being draped over the floor. But so hopefully that is one that's remedied. There's a lot of petitions on that one, but
Yeah, that's crazy.
But some builders are really good about working with you and understand that that's what's the long term thing you're going to want.
Yeah.
Just like the vent fan in the laundry rooms, they're saying those have to be constantly on, but they wire them, so all you have to do is change the switch out, and it's a quick, easy thing. So
Yeah, for sure. Well, one of the last but not least, the thing that we wanted to tell you about is just like the timelines for new builds, for new construction. Typically, you can find a lot of times when they have homes built that maybe someone's backed out on that purchase, or the home was built as a spec home, meaning it was built with all certain features, and that's builders are going to this model more and more, is they're building the full home out and then just trying to sell it after they build it. Some of them make all the decisions for permitting and then get it to the framing stage and then sell the home. And so if it's already at framing and it just needs the next stages, a lot of times you can get in that home within 4 months. If it's a ready to move in type home, it could be ready now, and you just get a loan on it and go. And then dirt starts oftentimes, like if it's a bigger semi-custom type home, 14 to 16 months is what we're seeing right now, with Toll Brothers, for example. And then, some of the mid-range builders you're building like a 2,000 to 3,000 square foot home, you're probably in that like 6 to 10 months, depending on the builder and how fast they're moving. So that's usually how it goes. And, it's important to consider location big time as you're doing this. It just seems like a piece of dirt right now if you're buying a new build, but think about like all the elements of how you're going to be feeling, right? Is there snow melt? Is there views? Are your views obstructed? Are you by power lines? Are you by a street? Do you back to a park? Is there a playground nearby?
Is there a junkyard down the road?
Through roads, is that going to bother you? Do you like being on the end of the street where everybody's passing you, but maybe you have a better view? What do you prioritize? So there's just a lot of things that we go into, and we help people, pick a lot and pick the best location for them.
do they let you make the garage bigger than the initial floor plan without a major expense?
Yeah. Can you have that 3-car garage?
Yeah.
For some people, that's
And just
big.
because they say you can pick your finishes doesn't mean that it's going to cost the same as the list price.
Yeah.
Most of the time, those are going to be additional costs on top of your
the
list
model
price.
homes typically always have the high-end finishes.
Yeah.
But the price that they're advertising to you doesn't come with light fixtures and different things. So you got to figure out there's going to be a big expense on that, window coverings and stuff like that too. It's part of the budgeting
Design
process.
centers get you.
Yeah,
I'd say
sure.
just really quick, and I'd like to know you guys' tips because we have a ton of experience in here, but I'd say ceiling fans are worth it to have the builder do.
Overhead lighting.
Yep. And then the main thing is if you buy an upgrade, you already purchased the basic version, and that's in the price already. So let's say you're buying the house and there's a regular water heater in there. You buy an upgrade for a tankless water heater. You basically just paid for 2 water heaters and got 1. So that's something that I would think about as well if you're upgrading, is that whatever you're upgrading from is already baked into the price when you purchase it.
And some things with the builder, you may be able to do it for cheaper
Yeah.
later. And then other things, it's a great deal with the builder. Like
Yeah.
basement finishes are usually a really good deal with the builder. So that's an insight too. What were you going to say?
Yeah, what you had mentioned about electrical, spend the extra money, do the electrical, wire for a ceiling fan. Even if you don't use it, cap it off. Those types of things there, because especially electrical and plumbing and that type of stuff is so much cheaper to do before the drywall's up and before all of the actual finishes in. And you always get your money back on that and then some. So I don't know if you've ever paid to put extra lighting in a room that, like in a mid-level house, where you're trying like the main floor of the home where there's an upstairs and you don't have access, and having people come in and have to do all the drywall repair and everything else. So much easier just to do it ahead of time. So
For sure. Yeah. Awesome. Well, hope this has been helpful for you if you're planning your new home, trying to figure out construction timelines, and just, have some exciting things coming for you as far as housing goes. Hopefully this has been helpful. And if you need more resources or you'd like to start this process, definitely click on our links below to get in touch with us, the Dreamsmith team. We're here to help you here in the South Denver metro area, and there's lots of great new construction communities that are around here that we can help you dig into and get to know, so that you can find out if that might be a good fit for your first home or next home. So thanks for listening today, and we'll see you on the next one. So if you have enjoyed what you're listening to and you'd like to hear more, make sure to press that subscribe button so that you can not miss out on any more episodes that are coming up. And also check out all of our contact information is below. You can see us at the dreamsmithteam.com to look up more information about our team and our history and all of the members of our team, and see contact information that you can reach us if you have any real estate needs.
See you next time.